The old wooden sign at the mountain pass read, "Welcome to Hollowbrook Population 47. But Emma Rodriguez knew that number was wrong. Dead wrong. As her GPS signal died and fog rolled between the ancient pines, she had no idea she was about to discover why no one who entered this forgotten West Virginia hollow ever updated that count. The Rodriguez family's camping trip was supposed to be a chance to reconnect, to escape the chaos of city life. Instead, they were about to stumble into something that had been hidden in these mountains for generations, something that would make them question everything they thought they knew about survival family and the lengths people will go to protect their secrets. Don't forget to subscribe and comment your favorite horror topic below. Emma Rodriguez gripped the steering wheel tighter as the engine made another concerning sound. The winding mountain road seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, carved into the side of cliffs that dropped into misty valleys below. Her husband Miguel sat in the passenger seat, studying their paper map with growing frustration. "The GPS died 20 miles back," he muttered, tracing his finger along the thin lines. "I think we took a wrong turn at that last fork." In the back seat, their teenage twins Sophia and Carlos had long since given up complaining about the lack of cell service. Sophia pressed her face against the window, watching the dense forest of pine and oak trees that seemed to close in around them. The trees were old here, ancient even, their gnarled branches creating a canopy so thick that midday looked like twilight. "There," Carlos pointed ahead. "Some kind of building." Emma's heart lifted as she saw smoke rising from a chimney. A weathered wooden structure sat nestled between the trees, its porch sagging but welcoming. More importantly, there was an old pickup truck parked outside, which meant people who might know these roads. As their car wheezed to a stop in front of the cabin, the engine finally gave up with a pathetic cough and a hiss of steam. Emma turned the key, but nothing happened. The silence that followed was profound. No traffic, no airplanes overhead, just the whisper of wind through leaves and the distant call of some mountain bird. "Well," Miguel said with forced optimism, "at least we found civilization." The front door of the cabin creaked open, and a tall, lean man emerged. He wore faded overalls and a flannel shirt that had seen better decades. His hair was long and unkempt, and his beard was streaked with premature gray, but his eyes were kind, and when he smiled it seemed genuine. "Y'all having some trouble?" he called out, his accent thick with mountain drawl. He approached their car with unhurried steps, his boots crunching on the gravel and fallen leaves. Emma rolled down her window, relieved to finally encounter a local. "Our car just died on us," she explained. "We're trying to get to the campground at Pine Ridge, but I think we're lost." The man scratched his beard thoughtfully. "Pine Ridge? That's a good 40 miles from here, and the road you'd need to take washed out in the spring floods. Name's Ezra Holloway, by the way." He extended a calloused hand through the window. "Emma Rodriguez. This is my husband Miguel and our kids Sophia and Carlos." Emma shook his hand, noting how rough and strong it felt. "Is there somewhere around here we could get help? Maybe call for a tow truck?" Ezra chuckled, but not unkindly. "Nearest phone that works is probably 2 hours down the mountain, and that's if you know the roads, which you don't." He glanced at their car's steaming hood. "Looks like your radiator's gone. That's not something you're fixing tonight." Miguel leaned across Emma. "Is there a hotel or motel nearby? We don't want to impose." "Impose?" Ezra's eyes widened. "Friend, hospitality ain't an imposition in these parts, it's a duty. My family's been in these mountains for 7 generations and we've never turned away folks in need." He gestured toward the cabin. "We got plenty of room, and my wife Abigail makes the finest venison stew this side of the Mason-Dixon line." Sophia perked up at the mention of food. They'd been surviving on gas station snacks for hours, and the smell of wood smoke was making her stomach growl. "That's incredibly kind of you," Emma said. "But we couldn't—" "Nonsense," Ezra interrupted gently. "Besides, even if I could get you to a phone tonight, no tow trucks coming up this mountain in the dark. These roads are treacherous enough in daylight." His expression grew serious. "You're stuck here whether you like it or not. Might as well be comfortable." As if to emphasize his point, the first drops of rain began pattering against the windshield. The Holloway cabin felt like stepping back in time. Oil lamps cast dancing shadows on log walls, and the main room centered around a massive stone fireplace where a pot bubbled over glowing coals. The furniture was handmade but sturdy, and animal pelts served as rugs on the wide plank floors. The smell of cooking meat filled the air, rich and savory. Abigail Holloway emerged from what Emma assumed was the kitchen, wiping her hands on a flour-dusted apron. She was a small woman with prematurely lined face and hair pulled back in a severe bun, but her smile was warm. "Travelers," she exclaimed in a voice that carried genuine pleasure. "Ezra, you didn't tell me we had guests coming." "Their car broke down on the Ridge Road," Ezra explained, helping Emma carry in their overnight bags. "Going to need fixing in town tomorrow." Two younger members of the Holloway family appeared from the back rooms. There was Caleb, probably in his early 20s, with the same lean build as his father but an odd intensity in his pale blue eyes. Behind him came Ruth, a girl about Sophia's age with stringy blonde hair and a shy demeanor that made her seem younger than she probably was. "This is so kind of you," Miguel said, shaking hands with each family member in turn. "We really appreciate the hospitality." "Think nothing of it," Abigail insisted, ladling stew into wooden bowls. "We don't get many visitors up here. It's nice to have some new faces around the table." As they gathered around the rough-hewn dining table, Emma noticed small details that seemed slightly off. The windows were covered with heavy curtains despite the early hour. There were no photographs on the walls, no books or magazines visible anywhere. The only decorations were mounted deer heads and what looked like hand-carved wooden figures that cast strange shadows in the lamplight. But the stew was delicious, and the conversation flowed easily. The Holloways asked polite questions about their travels, and Ezra regaled them with stories of mountain life that made the children laugh. As night fell outside, Emma began to relax. Maybe this unexpected detour would turn into a pleasant adventure after all. Emma woke to the sound of whispering. The guest room was pitch black, the heavy curtains blocking any hint of moonlight. She lay still, listening to the low murmur of voices somewhere in the house. Miguel breathed steadily beside her, and she could hear the twins' quiet breathing from the adjoining room where they'd been given cots. The voices grew slightly louder, and she caught fragments of conversation. "Fresh meat. Been too long since. The children are young." A chill ran down Emma's spine. She told herself she was being paranoid, that she'd misheard. But something about the tone of those whispers made her skin crawl. Very carefully, she slipped out of bed and padded barefoot to the door. The wooden floor creaked under her weight, and the voices immediately stopped. Emma froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. After what felt like an eternity, the murmuring resumed, but quieter now, more careful. She pressed her ear to the door and heard Ezra's voice. "We'll wait until they're deep asleep. The parents first, quiet-like. The young ones, well, they'll keep longer." Emma's blood turned to ice. She stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a gasp. Her mind raced, trying to process what she'd heard. Keep longer? What did that mean? A floorboard groaned in the hallway outside their door, and Emma dove back into bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. She shook Miguel's shoulder urgently but quietly. "Miguel," she whispered directly into his ear. "Miguel, wake up, something's wrong." Her husband stirred, blinking in confusion. "What? What time is it?" "Listen to me." Emma's voice was barely audible. "We need to leave. Now. Something's not right about this family." Miguel frowned, still groggy. "Emma, what are you talking about? They've been nothing but kind." "I heard them talking," she interrupted. "They're planning to hurt us. To hurt the kids." The footsteps in the hallway stopped directly outside their door. Both Emma and Miguel held their breath, listening to the silence that followed. Miguel was now fully awake, the gravity of Emma's words sinking in. "Are you sure you heard right?" he whispered. Before Emma could answer, they heard the soft sound of their door handle turning. Both parents lay perfectly still, forcing their breathing to remain deep and regular. The door opened with the faintest creak, and a shaft of dim light fell across the floor. Through barely cracked eyelids, Emma saw Ezra's silhouette in the doorway. He stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, watching them sleep. Finally, he backed out and closed the door with the same careful quietness. "We have to get the kids and go," Emma breathed once his footsteps faded. They slipped into the adjoining room where Sophia and Carlos slept. Emma gently shook her daughter awake while Miguel roused Carlos. Both teenagers were groggy and confused. "Mom, what's happening?" Sophia mumbled. "We need to leave quietly," Emma whispered. "Don't ask questions, just get dressed and follow us." As they gathered their scattered belongings, Emma noticed something that made her stomach lurch. There were bones under Carlos's cot, small ones, yellowed with age. And hanging from a nail on the wall was what looked like a child's jacket, far too small for Ruth but stained with something dark. The family crept through the cabin, avoiding the floorboards they remembered creaking. The front door was their goal, just 20 feet away across the main room. But as they reached the living area, Emma saw something in the dying firelight that made her freeze in terror. The wooden figures she'd noticed earlier weren't decorative carvings. They were human bones, arranged in grotesque sculptures, femurs and rib cages twisted together, skulls grinning from impossible angles. And on the mantelpiece, partially hidden by shadows, were photographs after all. Dozens of them. Pictures of families, couples, children, all smiling, all looking exactly like the Rodriguez family had when they'd first arrived. All victims. Miguel saw them too and grabbed Emma's arm. "The door," he mouthed silently. But as they took another step, a floorboard let out a long, loud groan that echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. The cabin erupted into motion. Footsteps thundered from the back rooms, and oil lamps flared to life. Ezra appeared first, but he looked nothing like the kind mountain man who'd welcomed them hours earlier. His eyes were wild, predatory, and in his hands was a hunting knife that gleamed wickedly in the lamplight. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his voice no longer carrying the warm drawl. Now it was cold, calculating. Abigail emerged behind him, her matronly facade completely dropped. She carried a length of rope, and her smile was hungry. "We were hoping you'd sleep longer," she said almost sadly. "It's always easier when they don't struggle." "Run!" Miguel shouted, pushing his family toward the door. But Caleb was already there, blocking their escape with a shotgun. Ruth appeared from another doorway, her shy demeanor replaced by something eager and terrible. "7 generations," Ezra said conversationally, advancing on them with the knife. "That's how long the Holloway family has survived in these mountains. You know what the secret is? Knowing when to take what you need." Emma pushed her children behind her, her mind racing for any escape route. "There has to be another way out," she whispered to Miguel. "The winter of 1847 was particularly harsh," Abigail added, as if this were a normal dinner conversation. "Great-great-grandfather Josiah made the first hard choice. After that, well, it got easier." "You're insane," Miguel said, though his voice shook. "Insane?" Ezra laughed. "Friend, this is survival. Pure and simple. The mountain provides. But sometimes you have to help it along." He gestured with the knife toward the bone sculptures. "Each family that finds their way up here feeds us for months. Waste not. Want not." Sophia whimpered behind Emma, finally understanding the true horror of their situation. The warmth, the hospitality, the kind smiles, all of it had been a facade hiding something monstrous. "The funny thing is," Ruth spoke for the first time, her voice high and sweet, "you actually taste better when you're scared. The adrenaline does something to the meat." Emma closed her eyes and prayed for a miracle they desperately needed. The Rodriguez family's camping trip to reconnect with each other turned into a nightmare they never could have imagined. What started as a simple case of car trouble in the remote West Virginia mountains became a fight for survival against a family that had abandoned humanity generations ago. The Holloway clan represents something that chills us to the bone. The idea that evil can hide behind a mask of kindness and hospitality. For 7 generations, they had perfected the art of luring unsuspecting travelers into their web, using the isolation of the mountains to cover their horrific crimes. This story reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous predators aren't the ones who look threatening. They're the ones who offer help when you're most vulnerable. who smile warmly while plotting your demise. The Holloways understood that desperation makes people trusting, and they use that basic human need for assistance as their hunting strategy. In those dark Appalachian hollows, where cell towers don't reach and GPS signals die, there are still places where civilization's rules don't apply. Places where families like the Holloways can exist for generations, living off the misfortune of others, sustained by acts too terrible to fully comprehend. The most terrifying part isn't just what the Holloways did, it's how easily they did it. How naturally the lies came, how perfectly they played their roles, and how many families before the Rodriguezes had fallen into the same trap. Those photographs on the mantelpiece weren't just trophies. They were evidence of a systematic horror that had been hidden in plain sight for over a century. What do you think? Could you have spotted the warning signs that the Rodriguez family missed? Or would you have also been fooled by the Holloway's act of mountain hospitality? The isolation of places like Hollowbrook makes you wonder what other dark secrets might be hidden in America's most remote corners. Sometimes the scariest monsters aren't supernatural. They're the ones that look just like us. If you enjoyed this chilling tale of survival horror, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. And don't forget to comment below with your favorite horror topic. Whether it's urban legends, true crime, supernatural encounters, or psychological thrillers, let us know what sends chills down your spine, and we might feature it in an upcoming video. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous roads are the ones that seem to offer the easiest path home. Subscribe now and comment your favorite horror topic below.